Well, hello, good morning, moms and dads. If you're raising a child with a behavior disorder like ADHD and oppositional defiant disorder or any other disorder, we're going to talk about symptoms and solutions today. That's right. Solutions, positive, proactive solutions that actually are based on principles that really work to help your children develop and to help you have more peace, harmony, and happiness in the home. We're Bonnie and
Thomas Leota.
Yes, and we wrote a book called Raising Healthy, Happy, Cooperative Kids. This is the live book study. We go at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time every Saturday. So if you need to grab the content or you would like to join us here live, I'm just going to put a banner. You can go to learntospeakkid.com, get yourself the resources, begin to read, enlighten yourself, and fill your mind and heart with hope that there is a better way. There is a way to create harmony in your home. Doesn't matter what the child behavior disorder is right now. Now we're talking ADHD, the 21st century pandemic. I could say child behavior disorder pandemic because pandemic literally means prevalent throughout an entire country, continent, or the entire world. And we talk to parents from all over the world. And these behavior disorders exist in Ireland, Australia, Switzerland, India, everywhere these are happening. So there's a reason why, and we're going to talk about that today. So we want to say thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the Creating Champions for Life way of parenting. All right, so I want to say this. We've been overloaded with information about ADHD, about child behavior disorders for the last few decades, but every single decade, the number of children that are being diagnosed and medicated are rising to a ridiculous scale. And we're going to talk about symptoms. So Tom, we're going to talk about symptoms and then we're going to come back and we're going to offer solutions. And I have a few stories that I want to share in between. So share a solution or symptoms of ADHD, first of all, for those that may not know what it is.
Absolutely. And it kind of goes as follows, right? The ADHD. There we go. All right. So for ADHD, right? These are the symptoms that children are grouped into three categories. Category number one is inattention. A child with ADHD is easily distracted, doesn't follow directions or finish tasks, doesn't appear to be listening. What? Doesn't pay attention and makes careless mistakes, forgets about daily activities, has problems organizing daily tasks, doesn't like to do things that require sitting still, often loses things, tends to daydream. Category number two, hyperactivity. A child with ADHD often squirms, fidgets, or bounces when sitting, doesn't stay seated, has troubles playing quietly, is constantly moving, such as running or climbing on things. In teens and adults, this is more commonly described as restlessness. Talks excessively, is always on the go, as if driven by a motor. The third category is impulsivity. What? ADHD has trouble waiting for their turn, blurts out answers, and interrupts other people.
What? Oh my gosh, I interrupt all the time. All right. And you know what? Let's talk about oppositional defiant disorder, Asperger's syndrome, and autism really quickly as well. This is on page 28, chapter 4 of Raising Healthy, Happy, Cooperative Kids.
All right. Oppositional defiant disorder. If your child or teenager has a frequent or persistent pattern of anger, irritability, arguing, defiance, or vindictiveness towards you and other authority figures, they may have oppositional defiant disorder. Asperger's syndrome, a developmental disorder characterized by significant difficulties in social interactions and nonverbal communication, along with restricted and repetitive patterns of behavior and or interests. Autism, difficulty in communicating and forming relationships with other people and in using language and abstract concepts.
Oh, okay. Now, I know you didn't take notes on all that. Tom went through them really quickly, and that's the purpose, because you can find them all in the book. But I want to say this, that it's called American Psychology Association, came out with the first edition of the mental health disorders back in 1952. Not one disorder was mentioned about child behavior disorders. There was no ADHD, no oppositional, none of this was mentioned in the first edition. In 1968, the APA came out with a second edition with the help of Dr. Leon Eisenberg, who put in, I think it was called kinetic disorder, which later changed, the name changed to ADD. The name changed again to ADHD just recently. And so these are all the same thing. They're described the same way. And so when Tom was reading the symptoms, that is directly off the internet. Like, that is what how the doctors describe what these child behavior disorders are. After doing an intense amount of research, we have found that Dr. Leon Eisenberg in 2009 said at the age of 87 on his deathbed that in the early 60s, so many parents were bringing their children to the doctor's office saying, hey, can you please fix my kid? Something's wrong with my kid. They're not listening to me. That they had to make something up. Yep, I said it. You can find it. You can do your research. Now, when you do, there's something that you can search, like a fact check or whatever. Did you know that the fact check are owned by the pharmaceutical companies? What's interesting to me is that 10 years after Dr. Leon Eisenberg said that this is the perfect example or a prime example of a fictitious disease, he was talking about ADHD. 10 years later, more than 1 million toddlers ages 2 to 4 are being medicated for behavior disorders. Children that will not listen to their parents begin to think something's wrong with them. And because we're so inundated with TV and movies and magazines, and because almost every single parent that puts their child in elementary school gets called to the office at some point, we're having a problem with your child's behavior. Now, if you know this information, you can champion for your child. If you don't know this information and all you do is think that your child should just listen to you because they were born and you're their parents and that's just the way it should be, and if they don't, there's something wrong with them, then you cannot champion for your child. You're kind of just left out there. I want to use the word ignorant, and I just mean uneducated, like you don't know that you don't know. Innocent, right? You're just innocent. Parents are innocent. I was in the same boat back in 2011. All 4 of my children were being diagnosed with these different behavior disorders, not all the same. 3 out of my 4 children were diagnosed, though, with ADHD, and my youngest also with oppositional defiant disorder. Now, if I had taken my oldest daughter to the doctor and complained about her defiance, she probably would have been diagnosed too. It just didn't happen until later on. All right. So look up Dr. Leon Eisenberg. And I want to say this. If your child has speech problems, did you know that Einstein didn't speak till he was 4 years old? Did you know that Thomas Edison was removed from school in grade 3 because the teacher said he couldn't learn? Did you know that Richard Branson, the owner of Virgin Airlines, was diagnosed with dyslexia? Quit high school at the age of 15 because he thought it was a waste of time, started his own business, and has now become one of the most successful people on the planet. Did you know that Steve Jobs was oppositional defiant disorder? The term oppositional defiant disorder didn't exist when he was in school, but he was constantly in trouble. The teachers wanted him to have special aid. His parents took Steve Jobs out of school, homeschooled him, and we know that he developed Apple computers. All right. So these are things that we need to equip ourselves with this knowledge so that we can know. Now, we're going to go back over the symptoms of ADHD, and Tom is going to talk about positive solutions and what it actually really means, because I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing wrong with your child. Now, we're not saying that these things don't exist. We see it. We work with parents all over the world, and I lived with it, and it is not easy to live with a child who has a behavior disorder, but there's a reason why they have a behavior disorder, and there are solutions, because we have clients that have joined us right here. We have clients all over the world that are working with us that are seeing the exact same amazing results with their children when they begin to become aware and change some things at home. So go ahead, Tom.
Sure. Absolutely. First and foremost, let's all be on the same page that these labels do exist. They're a medical diagnosis of how would you describe what's really going on. So yes, these are real. We're not saying that they're not real. They are. So with all that being said, it kind of minds us to step into our game of opposites. If there's a can't, there's a can. If there's a I don't know, there is I do know. And that's really what we're here to share, is both sides of the coin. And it's always up to you, and will always be up to you, to at least know that there is two sides to the coin and which one is right for you. Fair enough? Fair enough. Okay. Now, the perspective that I'm hearing is that we are, and this is a key word, if you picked it up what Bonnie said, symptoms. Very important is the symptom. Well, let's think about the symptom. There is something before or after. Well, it seems like a symptom would be almost like the effect in a universal law called cause and effect. The symptom is not the cause. There's something that caused the symptom. So a lot of times we might go to the store and we're looking for something is, I have a runny nose. I'm looking, that's a symptom, because there's something happening in the body and the body's reacting to whatever that cause is. And the symptom is that. So I might be looking for symptom relief. This is a very popular product that you will find in any kind of store around. And I'll tell you what, if I could get rid of the symptom, then I know my body's working and everything's going into place. Happy, happy, happy. There might be a symptom relief. The other one is, what if there was a way to, let's find out what the cause was. And that's what we're going to be focusing on here today. Is we know there's a symptom, that's the label, but what would have actually caused it? Because if we knew that there was something that caused it, what if we could actually, maybe go right instead of left? So let's give ourselves the ADHD. Now, many of you that are note takers out there, grab that pen and paper and go right to pen to paper, because we always know that if it's in our head, we'll lose it fast. But if you write it down, it's sure to last. So let's look this out. ADHD. Looks like there's 4 components. And as we look at the word attention, deficit, hyperactivity, disorder. Now let's just look at what that would be. I want to bring our focus to the second word, which is called deficit. And what does deficit really mean? Well, you might be able to look it up, and it kind of like a deficit would be in mathematics, we'd call that maybe like a minus or some like a subtraction. But deficit is really a negative version of the opposite called surplus, meaning you have more than you need or you have less than you need. So right next to your attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, put something up above it with 4 lines, and then put the word deficit, which is below, put surplus in the equation above it. So it's blank surplus, and below is blank deficit. Yours should be attention. So let's put attention on both sides, attention surplus and attention deficit. All right. Now we're going to add something to it. We have hyperactivity disorder. Now right above it, we have hyperactivity, right? Attention surplus plus hyperactivity. But instead of disorder, which is the equation that's in the label, what if we were to do the opposite of disorder? And that could be as simple as dissing the dis. So let's look at what dis really, really means. Dis comes from like a Latin term, literally meaning apart or opposite of. So the root word is order. And the disorder is something is apart or the opposite of. So let's look at the actual order. Well, that's when you arrange things, kind of like our alphabet. Remember how we put the letters all together? And remember how it went? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Now I know my ABCs. Can you sing them backwards to me? Question mark. And if you had them in order, it would be a piece of cake because it would sound something like this. Z, Y, X, and W, V, U, T, S, and R, Q, P, O, N, M, N, L, K, J, I, H, G, F, E, D, and C, B, A. See, when you have order, you can go forwards and backwards in anywhere that you choose. But when you have a disorder, things are apart. And the first visual that comes in my mind when I think of disorder is a beautiful picture. Take your favorite family album picture and cut it up into 1,000 pieces and put it in a box and sell it on the market called a, for the thinkers that want to know it, that's right, you guessed it, a puzzle. That just means the pieces need to be put back together. So if you look at the two, if you got attention deficit hyperactivity disorder label, then you also can have attention surplus hyperactivity order. And that's what we're looking at right here. Because the symptoms are the reactive part and the cause is the equation above. Because at the end of the day, when you have attention, all of us require attention. And answer that question, no or yes. Absolutely. We all know that every animal that's born that doesn't get attention will die. Plain and simple. There's no secrets to this. So if we are running our kids with an attention deficit, my goodness, maybe the attention deficit really could be something as simple as this, as a solution. Maybe they're not getting the attention that says, hey, what about me over here? When do I get a turn to do something? Because we all start off with doing everything for our kids. No or yes. And if your heart says yes, I sure do. From 0 to 2, what do they do other than cry? We do everything for them. But maybe right after that age of 2, they're starting to have an attention deficit of my turn. And that might be an aha moment right there of going, well, gosh, if I keep doing for them, maybe that's where the attention deficit is really starting to become that root cause. What if? And we shifted that attention to, oh, I see you want to be just like me. And let's shift that energy to, let's see what we can do to help you do that. Then we get over to the hyperactivity. Well, the disorder is we're telling them can't, don't, or won't. And that causes all kinds of disorder.
Yeah.
But what if we were to take that hyperactivity and guide it? You see, when I was a kid, I remember there was these fireworks called bottle rockets. And when we actually took the stick off of the bottle rocket and you lit it, it went all over the place. It was hyperactive. It just went somewhere. But if it had a stick on it, you could put it in the bottle and it would always go in the direction that it was pointed. So what if that hyperactivity from our kids was a disorder going all over the place? But what if we actually had a focus? You know, kind of like what we look at how all of us in our animal kingdom actually do. And what I mean by this is, let's look at what our relationship really is. Maybe the disorder is we don't know what direction to do to prepare them to leave the nest. And what if we put it back into an order of 3 simple steps as we get ready to wrap up this little segment? 1, we validate that they are a winning lotto ticket and showed up here in physical form, and look at the thumbprint. There's your identification stamp and you're a unique individual, and look at the odds of what you had to do to get here. Wow. Congratulations on making it here. Welcome to Earth. And you picked me as your trusted advisors to show you how the world works. And we did everything for them from that 0 to 2, which we all understand is true. But then in a moment, we shifted gears and we took that control of punishing them when they did something we didn't like and told them can't, don't, won't. And we shifted that control to guiding, where it's like, you've got goals just like me and you want to be like me. And let me show you how you can do what you want to do, where you could do what you want to do. And most importantly, we all know this, timing, because a cookie before dinner is not the best timing. Are you with me on this? Absolutely. Maybe as a dessert. It's all about how, when, or where. We're creating the dis out of the disorder and bringing things into order. So shifting the control from punishing to guiding. And then that way, the last phase would be, what if all they required were the missing life skills to be successful and be prepared to leave out of the nest to do everything all on their own? We do for, we do with, so they can do everything by themselves. And then you're their trusted advisor for life. Back to you, Bonnie.
Wow, thanks, Tom. We might have to watch that a couple times to figure out some of the puzzles that you shared in there, but that's awesome. So Thomas was diagnosed with dyslexia. That's why he can do the alphabet forwards and backwards. So it really is a superpower. Every single thing that our children experience, the disorders, this is not a disorder. It is not something wrong with our kids. There's not anything that needs to be fixed. But like Tom said, there are life skills that need to be taught. So I want to talk about the 1960s. It was 1968 that Eisenberg said, oh, so many parents are bringing their kids to the doctor asking what's wrong with my kids that we made something up. In 1946, Dr. Spock wrote a book called Baby and Child Care. And if you're working with us, you've heard this before, but repetition is a second law of learning. So he was the one that taught parents we should not spank, no more corporal punishment, but that we should lavish them with attention, respond to their every whim, do and have everything for them. And when they do something you don't like, we come in and we take something away. We put them on a timeout. We ground them. If you're with me, say yes, share a comment if this is something that you've learned to do with your children. When I first moved into this place, I could hear a neighbor talking to her kid, and they were, I don't know what they were doing, cleaning something. They were working. And the child's like, what's my job? Your job is to sit over there and watch TV, stay out of the way, and let us do what we're going to do. Can you see that way of thinking could cause a deficit of attention to the child when all the child wants to do is be respected? Like every single one of us, don't we want to feel important? Don't we want to feel heard? Don't we want to feel respected? Children are not some sort of different species that we need to figure out how to communicate with them. They're little human beings. They have a desire for purpose and respect and all of these great things that you have a desire for. Not only this, they have a desire to play video games, play with their friends, watch TV, eat a cookie right now before dinner. These are things that our children want. And every single time we go, no, because I said so, we are giving them a deficit of attention. How much does this make sense? All right. Now, in the book that we wrote, that you can go to learntospeakkid.com and get the book, but in the book, Raising Healthy, Happy, Cooperative Kids, we talk about things that changed in the 60s. But I want to add this. What else happened in the 60s besides child behavior disorders? What happened in the 60s? What were the teenagers doing? What do we know about the 60s? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? Like we know that the teenagers went, we're going to listen to our rock and roll and we don't care what you say. We're going to protest on the streets. Do you remember that? Do you remember John Lennon singing power to the people? There was so many things that were happening, but also what also happened in the 1960s was Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, the first cases of, what do you call that? Serial killers. Okay. The first cases of serial killers happened in the 1960s. Do you not see a correlation between kiss, cuddle, respond to your kids' every need and these different massive amounts of disorders? And all these people were saying was, look at me. Look what I can do. I want some attention. I want to be famous. Really? They were screaming out through their trumpets going, the way that you're parenting me is off the mark. We need to go back and look at what they did back 100 years ago when they had children to have more help on the farm. We talked about this last week, or maybe even the week before, because this is truth. If we go back to 1902, there was no kissing and cuddling and responding to their every whim. This is the first generation in the history of mankind where making our kids feel loved and giving them so much attention, and moms are running around pulling their hair out. This is the first generation that's ever happened in the history of our world. I don't know if you've ever watched the movie called The Spartans. Has anyone ever watched The Spartans? At the age of 5 or 6, the kids get shipped off, and they get
7.
Age 7. Okay, so at the age 7, the Spartans ship their kids off to go get trained. And if you didn't meet the mark, you were kind of like taken out. And now we're kissing and cuddling to our kids every whim. We're wrapping them in bubble wrap. We don't let them walk to school. I drive over to my dad's house every morning. He's suffering from an illness, so I go over every morning to help him. And I get to the school, and the school is so congested because every single kid gets dropped off by their mom and dad and then walked by hand across the street. Guys, your children can learn. They can learn to use a knife to cut up things in the kitchen. They can help you in the kitchen. They can learn how to walk across the street. They can learn to look both ways. They can learn to focus. If you've got a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old that has attention deficit disorder and they don't know how to focus, then we need to work on the life skill called focus. If your child is acting out in impulsive behavior, what life skill do they need to work on? And see, here's the thinking that we want to start to change, and the beliefs that we want to start to challenge. If you think something's wrong with your child, and they have a speech impediment, they're running all over the place, they don't listen to me, then we need to make a list of all of the things that you don't like. And we need to change it from a behavioral lens. Like, we need to stop looking at our kids like they're acting out, they're driving me crazy, whatever. And we need to consciously and proactively begin to make a list of life skills that is whose job to teach them. Do you think that it's the teacher's job to teach your child how to focus, self-control, responsibility, respect, self-discipline? So whose job is it to teach your children these things? If you're putting up your hand, then you're on the right, because there's nobody on this planet, nobody. Your pediatrician, I'm going to cry. I cried last week. I'm feeling very emotional. I'm feeling very emotional these days. But if you look at your kid and you think something's wrong with them, the teacher's not going to fix it. The teacher just says, hey, you know what? Your kid needs to learn how to sit in a desk. I saw something on Twitter the other day. What happens when the kids get in the car? Is there some sort of electric battery that makes them freak out and scream and cry? No. You haven't actually practiced with them what your expectations are for them when they're in the car. And there is no goal that your child's working towards. You just expect them to sit down and shut up because you're the mom and you told them to. And how many people, as I say it this way, how many of you watching go, oh my gosh, that is so true. If you want to bring your child to a restaurant, wouldn't it make sense if your kid's born with no habits, no life skills, and you want to take your 2 or 3-year-old to a restaurant, wouldn't it make sense to have restaurant playtime training at home before you take them to a public place? Right? And so these are the things that we're saying, and we want you to be aware that your child just doesn't know. They're born like, a blank canvas, like an artist. If you're an artist and you go, oh, my child's born with a blank canvas, they're blank like this. They don't know how to focus. They don't know what manners are. They don't know how to sit still in a car. They don't know how to be quiet. They don't know how to sit in a classroom for 4 or 5 hours at a time. They don't know how to share with other kids. These are all things that we must teach them. You see, the animal kingdom, even whales. Whales are born with no life skills. Did you know that a mama whale will wait for her baby to cry? Her baby cries and says, I'm hungry. And the mama whale, do you think the mama whale goes, oh, I need to kiss, cuddle, and respond to your every whim. Come on, honey, let me feed you. You're hungry. And then goes down and hunts for food? Mama whale waits for her baby to cry, and then she says, if you want to eat, follow me. And the mama whale goes down as deep and deep and deep. And now the baby whale can't hold air as long as the mama whale. So she goes down to hunt first. She brings the baby with her as far as it can go. she waits, she keeps going. The baby goes up to the top, keeps crying because it's hungry, waits for mom. Then mom comes up to feed him. And they do that for, I think, a year or two until the baby whale knows how to hunt. Because you know what? If we don't teach our baby whales how to hunt, they'll die. And if we don't teach our children how to focus, they're going to die in this world. They're going to grow up believing something is terribly wrong with them. And then it gives host to a whole bunch of other problems. I'm not sure what the percentage of children with ADHD get then later diagnosed with ODD, but they all kind of go hand in hand. If you have an autistic child that has difficulty in social situations, maybe that's true. There's no test to say, there's no physical chemical test to say, hey, your child has this or doesn't have this. We go, okay, my child suffers or, struggles with social interactions. So what do we need to do? We need to take the time to teach them how to interact in social situations and so on and so on and so on. So whatever it is that you're dealing with, whatever behavior or mood disorder your child has, it's time to make a list of what those are, things that you don't like. And then we just go, what is the opposite of that? What do they need to learn? What do they need to learn? And then we can't expect them to learn everything in one day.
Nope.
Like we can't expect a 10-year-old who's been oppositional defiant and not focused and no self-control, no respect to go, oh, now I get it. And let me teach you one time and they change in one day. No, it might take 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever. We have 18 years to prepare our children for life. An oak tree takes 50 years to mature, to begin to duplicate. A squash, we can plant a squash in June and harvest it by August, right? We got to start training our children, treating our children as if they were more like an oak tree. It might take 20 years. Like I still have my 22 and my 20-year-old daughter phoning me because now they're phoning me about relationship advice, and thank God I have a relationship with them that they actually do phone me for advice because I can direct them in the right way. But it's never going to end, even at 18. So if it takes 5, 10, 15 years to correct things, well, it takes 5, 10, 15 years to correct things. So before we open it up, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think that the one point that she made with the mama whale and the baby whale, right? Because we're talking a big depth. We're talking like 800 meters that the mom has to go all the way down to feed. Then the baby only can go maybe 100 the first time. And then mom comes up, feeds. Next time, baby starts to progress maybe down to 200. And then over some time, 400, 600, and all the way down. So when the baby can actually get down to the 800 with repetition, this is where Bonnie was saying it could take weeks or months to teach these missing life skills, right? Because none of us could walk, ride a bike, or drive a car just because we watched the video and want it now, stomp, stomp, stomp. But that's the part that could be possibly missing. Not saying that it is because you have a unique scenario, but what if it was? And that was the only thing that was missing. Mm-hmm. Then come link arms with us because that's what we focus on. We focus on the can-do side of the equation versus the can't do.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day is either can't or won't.
Right.
And this is very true. And I do have, there was, who was this here? It looks like Kasha. Yes, a daycare. Yes, I can totally relate. It was unprecedented. I was the very first martial art daycare center in Washington State. And yes, I've seen everything underneath the sun. And I've got a wonderful story to tell you about Brandon that would really hit home for you when we get a time. So I don't know if now is a good time,
next time,
but we'll do it very soon. Maybe
we'll next week,
later today.
Yeah, we want to open this up. We want to interact with you. So if you're watching us on YouTube or on our channel, make sure to connect with us on our Facebook group. It's in the description box. You can just click connect with us on our Facebook group, and then you can come and join us live on these sessions. You can challenge what we're saying. Like we are open to be challenged. If you don't believe what we're saying, whatever. So Chris and Christine, do you have anything that you would like to share?
Hi, good morning. Oh, can't see me too good.
Yes, it is.
Hi.
Hi.
So, yeah, that whole story about, I didn't know that about whales and how they taught their babies how to hunt and fish. That's so powerful. Yeah, just thinking about how We do with them to teach them. Monkey see, monkey do. We do with them slowly, being patient and believing in them. And little by little, with repetition and being patient and staying persistent, you will slowly begin to see, all of a sudden one day you'll realize, wow, look at how far we've already come, and look at how much they've already made so much progress, and us making progress along the way with them. That's
Yeah,
what
what are
we've
you personally seeing in your home with your kids right now?
already. So personally, with our daughters 12 and 13, they were at the stage before we started the program, getting defiant, oppositional, refusing to go to school, and staying in their room a lot, being kind of depressed and angry a lot. And what we've seen is they are engaging so much more with us. They're a lot happier now with setting goals and have something to work towards, and having more of a purpose, and doing things to, learning the life skills and the skills that, we've noticed that they're still missing and we're working on. Yeah, there's been a lot more peace and connection with them. And also teaching them, slowly, like we've just realized, just like, wow, they're lessening their cry to get what they want. Whereas before they would expect things and get, demanding, and I want this right now, and I don't want to do that. And so now they're learning through what we've been doing. Hey, I really want, to go here or do this. And they come up with a plan like, how about if I do this and this and this? And they come up with their plans. So they're learning how to make things happen, and without crying about it and thinking that we're going to just give in if they just cry enough, and we'll just give it to them or get it to them. So,
yeah, even just asking questions and validating it, we've seen a real improvement just by doing those two things.
I tell Tom that all the time. I'm like, you know what? Parents out there around the world might not get all 12 principles, but if we could just learn to validate, you want a cookie. I like cookies too. What is your favorite kind of cookie, versus just going, no, dinner's in 5 minutes, and no, because I said so. It's waking them up, and it's allowing them to think, and it's making them feel important. All the things that we talked about today. Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Not saying yes or no, and asking questions, and just those little changes that we've made, that we focused on. We took things slow, step by step at a time, and it's going great. Not trying to do too much too soon. Just those little things that you change every day adds up a lot.
Yeah, and you can see the dis being removed from any type of disorder. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
I love this. We're
Yeah.
saving lives. We're saving kids. We're saving families, really, because is your relationship better since learning this?
Yeah. So much better. So much better. Even last night, we were teaching Addison. She was interested in playing cards with us. We taught her how to play rummy, and we had a great time. We had a fire, and we were sitting by the fire. Olivia was watching us. She wasn't playing with us, but she was still in the room with us. And so, yeah.
Awesome.
A lot more happy moments.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things when we talk to, new parents, what do you really want? And, more than I want my kids to listen to me, and I want this, they want to be able to enjoy the time that they spend with their kids. And and it's happening for you.
Yep. That was one of the biggest things for us, was being able to enjoy spending time as a family and together, and working together, along with, teach them the missing life skills and all the other things that we've been, having to go back and, and help them with that. Because, yeah.
That's
But, yeah.
awesome. I've been
Yeah.
following you both for years. It's time to get your help. Yeah, Sandra. Sandra, if you put are you on Facebook? No, you're on YouTube. So I'll respond to your comment on YouTube after. You can send us an email and we'll have a chat on how we can help you best. So did you have anything else you'd like to share, you guys?
No.
No, that's good.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a seed
Thanks.
of awesomeness on this planet, because what's going to happen in 10, 15, 20 years from now is the Creating Champions for Life moms are going to be these little seedlings of hope all over the world that will grow and become a great oak tree. So I can see in 20, 25 years from now, schools will know how to validate their students versus yell at them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
daycare centers, prisons, like I get asked all the time, will this help with my spouse? Absolutely. If Tom would just validate when I speak, if he would just validate versus try to fix it all the time, you all know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah. So we need to.
Absolutely. It helps in every area of your life, every area. Yep.
It is so true that if we could relate this to something that's so universal that we cannot see, like gravity, it affects everybody across the board with no exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And when you stumble across this, maybe for the first time in a long time, we call those little sparks of hope. Do you remember your first sparks of hope when we first started? We're like,
Yes.
whoa, what was that? That's the beginning of the healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is so amazing, and it works literally with everyone when you're willing to actually be open and just flip the coin to do the opposite side.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for being here
Thank
and for
you.
sharing. Brittany, did you want to share something before we end today? Hi, Brittany. Brittany's been following us, as I said last week, since we were putting our own program together with duct tape, and and the title of our book was 12 words long, so 2015 or something like that. But the content has always remained the same. She's a special needs teacher. Now you've moved on to become a substitute teacher, and you're making a difference for kids. Do you want to share? Oh, you might be muted, hon. Yeah. There.
All right. Now can you all hear me? Cool. Okay, so I actually wanted to pinpoint, the opposite of ADHD with I think you all had mentioned attention surplus activity order, which I think is really, really cool. So and I think I've heard you all talk about that before, but I wanted to make sure I had it written down this time. But, when I went to sub for a fifth grade class last Tuesday, the class, they were great. And there was a child that was sitting in, the back of the classroom. And I guess the teacher, whenever they get the kids' attention, they do what's called callbacks. So one of the kids taught me that their teacher says spaghetti. Well, she says spaghetti, and then they say meatballs. So I thought that was interesting. So I did that. I would say spaghetti, and then they would say meatballs. And, that let them know that I needed their attention. And so when I went, and then some of them I found would still talk even after I did that. So what I said was, what should we be doing right now? And they'll say, getting my, work. And then, at the back of the classroom, I heard one kid say, oh, we should be talking right now. So that right there told me that, okay, well, he's used to getting negative attention. That's the only way that he knows how to get attention. So I totally just, kind of played it off. Because if I were to go back there and just say, okay, I'm the substitute, you don't talk like that while I'm here, then number one, that would have given him the attention the attention that he was used to, which is negative attention. and that wouldn't have helped. So I just kind of played it off, and I focused on the other students that were doing, what needed to be done. So it was awesome. They did great.
Oh, I'm so happy for you, because how many of us, when we had substitute teachers when we were a kid, like ate them alive? Like we'd be throwing things. We'd be like, oh, there's a substitute teacher running around on the
Oh,
desk
yeah.
and everything. Like, I don't know about you, but like if you were to able to maintain peace in your classroom, then you got this. You handled it like a champ.
Oh yeah, well, and there was a couple of them that asked, well, can you come back tomorrow? And I said, okay, well, why do you want me to come back tomorrow? And they said, well, because you're nice. And I said, well, I'm sure your teacher would like to see you tomorrow. And he's like, yeah, I know, but, and I'm like, well, I said,
Guiding behavior
yeah.
versus punishment. Proactive attention versus attention deficit. This is just going to change everything for the parents that have watched today. Gosh, I could talk all day, but I think we're done. I think we're going to wrap up here right away.
If I may have permission, and thank you so much, Brittany.
Yeah,
that
you're
was
the best.
A wonderful story.
We love you. Yeah.
All right. My heart here for Kasha, I understand where you're at, and I'd like to just share this story because it rang so true. This little boy, he was around 10 or 11, and this is about 20 some plus years ago when we had our after school martial art daycare center. And we were going on a field trip just to go to the library to do two simple fun things: play a little hide and go seek, to go find a book or go find something that catches your eye. And then as you start to play with the book and explore, show and tell time was going to be next of what did you see? What did you learn? What do you know? What was important to you? And as we started to drive going there, Brandon started to increase what was everybody thought was poor behavior or misbehavior. And it escalated as we got closer and closer to the library. And everybody was, hey, don't do that. Don't do this. Right. And that's what he's been experiencing his whole life. He's in 5th grade. And this is what he was known as a problem child. So when we got there, I'm thinking, well, no. That's the effect. There's got to be a cause. There's something missing. There's a life skill missing. I know this intuitively, right? So we know to look for it. So a long story short is Brandon, when we got him tested, he had you probably might have guessed it if you're putting 2 and 2 together. He had a 1st grade reading level. And since 1st grade to 5th grade, he's been bluffing it, acting out to hide the fact that he would be teased on not knowing how to read. How many of us can maybe relate a little bit in our own hearts? And so a long story short is, it's not like Bonnie said, it's not a behavior lens to react to what we don't like. We go back to the educational lens and go, there's just a missing life skill. What if? Let's play that game. What if? And we found it. And so we came up with a plan of action where dad and the son could start reading together to start the healing process to catch him up. Because when he started to learn how to read, guess who was excited to go to the library after about a year of healing?
Yeah.
Right. And when you see these again and again and again, you just know what you know, and you won't accept labels as something wrong with them ever again. You'll flip to the other side, and we've been able to find missing life skills with every kid so far.
Yep.
So hopefully that helps, and I can resonate. My heart goes out to you because, boy, what a challenge you have. And I think you're probably doing an outstanding job. Thanks for sharing today, Kasha.
Yes, I just want to say every child is born absolutely perfect with a clear blank slate, open to learn whatever you're willing to teach them. And that's the whole key, is we got to start teaching them versus punishing them. Thank you so much for being a part of our group, for watching today. Please share it out with your friends, invite them to the group. The group is a private group, but the only way people will know about it is if you invite them in and share it. So thank you. Have a great day. And until we meet again.
Here's
to
to our
your parenting success.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye for now.